Yeah, that's how it unfolded in Rashcott in the third test. England heavily beaten, a record-scoring defeat. And there's been a bit of a Bazball backlash from quite a number of the old players, especially. Joining us now to preview the fourth test that gets underway 4 a.m. on Friday is a man you heard in the commentary there, Neil Manthorp. Good afternoon, Manners.
Good afternoon.
Hi, Neil. How are you?
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Good to see you in real life. I normally just hear you on the radio. So
Down
this
the
is
line.
our first
there
meeting.
he is.
Better or worse?
It's very true. Good to see you.
So, it's been interesting the last few days. Quite a lot of ex-players lining up to say that, maybe Bazball has been found out. That was quite interesting. Derek Pringle, former England all-rounder, saying that this England team bring the vigour but not the rigour. That was his phrase, So in those little moments when you maybe do have to knuckle down and take a deep breath, they don't do that. But there we are, and Ben Stokes saying, well, that's not the way we play. That's not the way we're going to play. So you can kind of forget that. Take us warts and all.
The game can be reinvented. I mean, Test cricket's coming up to its 150th anniversary, and it's been constantly reinvented. So much more has changed about it than has stayed the same. People say, well, Test cricket's always been 5 days. No, it hasn't. It was been 3 days, 4 days, 6 days, and timeless tests. A lot about the game has been reinvented and has changed. People say you can't reinvent the wheel. You can reinvent Test cricket, but there's a time and a place to do it. And I know there have been lots of clever analogies around, but the point about Test cricket is, I was thinking about mountaineers saying, I'm going to be the fastest ever to climb Mount Everest. Well, that's laudable and that is admirable, and you'll certainly put backsides on seats if that's your aim, but not even the Sherpas go up Everest when there's a blizzard blowing. You have to identify the time and the place, and you look at that Indian opener Yashasvi Jaiswal's back-to-back double hundreds, but at times he was absolutely anchored in a defensive mode because Mark Wood was fresh with a new ball, and it was not the time to attack and to counter-attack. And that's all I think people are saying is great. Where everyone's talking about Test cricket, you wanted to revolutionise people's attitudes and the way you played it, and you're doing it, but you can't do it all the time.
Yeah. But there has to be a bit of a response, doesn't there, going into this fourth test, because it's the worst defeat they've had since the war. And when they put headlines out like that, it makes it sound really, really terrible. But is it that bad, Manners?
Was that the Boer War? Or I think it's just that's one aspect that I quite like, is the demystification of Test cricket. I quite enjoy that, and I actually believe that Ben Stokes and his players will not be as emotionally wounded, if that's possible in sport, than some other teams, many previous teams would have been, by losing by 434 runs. And I honestly believe that certainly if people take their cue from Stokes, that it won't make a great deal of difference to them if they lost by 34 or 434. Yeah. His attitude is, it's gone now. We just move on to the next one. But there are many teams in history who would have been in a really bad way for the rest of the tour, and possibly career affecting.
Yeah, I mean, I think the management and the captain are saying to the players, "Yeah, okay, we've got beat, we go again. We'll be." I mean, there's not been a post-mortem. They've not hunkered down. There's none of that going on. So that bodes well, I think. The attitude in there is that, dare to fail. And they are always prepared to go out there and do that on the basis that it will work at some stage. And
I love that. And I love that. And they want to bring new fans to the game, and they want to excite their existing fans. The one rejoinder to that is always that your existing fans and new fans will also be excited by winning. That's a really good thing to do. I mean, you can entertain. I was talking to Steve Harmison, my dear friend, who of course is born and bred Newcastle man, and he reminded me of the Newcastle team in the 1990s under Kevin Keegan, who were brilliant, and I remember them as well. And I'm not a Newcastle fan. You definitely wanted to watch them. I mean, but they didn't win anything. Yeah. And this England team, so far, they've won individual test matches. They haven't won any series. And do you know that there are moments you just... we heard Bumble there saying at the end of day 2, England were 207 for 2, trailing by just over 200, with Ashwin having left the test match, their prime bowler. And and Jasprit Bumrah's had a good night's sleep, and he's running in fresh and hard. He's number one bowler in the world, and so maybe just see him off, get him into a second spell and a third spell, get some overs into his legs, tire him out a little bit, and then go mad, then climb Everest.
Sure, yeah, that has been an issue. Let's hear from Ollie Pope. He's been talking. Bumrah's going to sit this one out, and he's been talking about that, but also adding that they do have a lot of depth in the squad.
Yeah, I mean, look, he's bowled phenomenally throughout this series, especially with that reverse swing ball. He's been a massive part of their team, so it will be a miss for them. But look, Siraj took 4 wickets in that last game as well. They've got some highly skilled seamers as well, so obviously that's the way it goes when you've got a quality seamer like that. We put in a 5-match series, it's probably going to be rested at some point.
It's Ollie Pope. He also said, Manners, that he expects Ben Stokes to have a bowl. I suppose it depends. He was in the net yesterday and looked pretty good, but I suppose it depends how his kind of the knee has reacted today after that.
Such a Ben Stokes story. It's just fantastic. Before the series began, he was seen doing a couple of very, very gentle lobs, really, off a couple of paces, and he said absolutely categorically, I am not going to bowl in this series. Just no way. I mean, I'm not going to go against some medical advice. And a few of us just thought, he's going to bowl. Yeah. He's going to bowl.
Apparently, he pinky promised his main physio that he would not bowl. I mean, if you go against a pinky promise...
Wow, that's true.
I mean, hell mend you.
Yeah, that is very true.
But you're right, it's a Ben Stokes thing to do, and that's why you love him.
Exactly. I don't know what his surgeon will be thinking, but he's the truth is that such is his reputation that even if he just brings himself on to bowl, with no Virat Kohli there'd be a couple of. The truth is there will be a couple of Indian batsmen, not Virat Kohli, but the younger ones. There are a couple of guys with only a few caps between them, and when Stokes comes on to bowl, it almost doesn't matter what he bowls and what pace. It's the return of Ben Stokes with the ball, and he does provide some balance. And sometimes you just need 4 or 5 overs in a 2-hour spell in order to provide that balance. Brendan McCullum kind of let the cat out of the bag yesterday when he said that he was talking about Ben having bowled for the first time at batsman in nets. So it just transforms the team. I mean, it's almost like England getting another half a player, almost like a 12-man.
But then, God forbid, it affects him again going forward.
Well, let's hope not. Let's hope he doesn't break down. That would be a blow, and then the post-mortem would kick in. But just finally, the pitch. It seems an interesting one. It's like Ollie Robinson's going to play. Say Stokes may bowl a bit. 3 spinners they're talking about. What have you made of the pitch from what we've seen of it? A lot of cracks in it.
A lot of cracks, and it was too dry 2 days ago, and it was watered, which is unusual so close to the Test match. Which tends to mean that you can't water it heavily. So this water on the surface means that it dries out in the heat. You can't keep it covered the whole time. Crusty top goes through the top. Could be really interesting. It's one of those pitches that can be manipulated. The very first Test match they had there was a very high scoring draw. India made 600, Australia made 450. It was a draw. And then they decided against a weaker South African team 2 years later to turn it into a result pitch, and India won by an innings and 200 runs, and it was over in 3.5 days. It's veering more towards a result looking pitch, so that could be good.
Well, England don't do draws, do they?
No, off the table. Off the table.
Off the table.
No option.
Whatever. Brilliant. Thanks very much, Neil. Thank you.
Nice to see you, Neil. Enjoy.
Back on Friday morning, of course, when we bring you exclusively live on talkSPORT and talkSPORT 2 the 4th Test, and simulcasting for the first couple of hours, which means you get a line.
I get a long lie.
That's good. Well, you're back with me on Friday anyway.
Yes.
So
on AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.